We have a ray of sunshine and extreme light in this world. Someone I've met through Twitter, and thankful that Twitter brought us together. But nonetheless, Danny Miranda is the guest for this episode. He is a writer. He can be a speaker, most certainly. He's a podcaster. He's an entrepreneur. He's the host of the Danny Miranda podcast, has amazing, amazing guests. All of his links will be below so you can check out his work. He's someone who lives life to the fullest. Most people exist. He lives. He is alive. He's vibrant. Follow him on Twitter if you want great, inspirational, motivational, uplifting, insightful advice and information every single day. So with this episode, we dive into a lot of what he went through and his writing journey even. So enjoy, and let's get into it with Danny Miranda, the man himself.
I have a dream.
It's one small step for man.
I am the greatest.
You want something, go get it. Period.
Yeah, I will. Likewise, man, you just got into it and you're absolutely crushing it. And you just have such a calling to it, you can say as well. Like you feel, when I watch it, you feel like in your element, you feel natural, you ask really good questions. And I think that'd be an awesome place to start, because I do have some unique questions to ask you. But like, what is your favorite thing about podcasting itself?
I love that it's a conversation, and thank you for having me on this podcast. I love that it is just a way to express who I truly am. And I did it with writing, and I do it with writing on Twitter. But it was so interesting because when I reached out to people and had phone calls with people who follow me, I felt like I was expressing a different part of myself than I do when I'm writing. So that was the biggest thing, that I could express more of who I truly am. And I really think that comes out in the interviews, and that's probably my favorite part about it.
Yeah, that's the one thing I got from your content in general is like, you tweeted something recently about how making content for you is not this like churning thing and like you reach burnout. It's just like you're straight up passionate for it and you just do it because you love it.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. And I think that the reason why I came to that conclusion is because in the past I've done it to get money or to get followers or for all that stuff. And it led me to getting burned out. It led it to be a grind because I wasn't expressing who I truly was in my heart. And I didn't know who I was truly in my heart. So the fact that I was doing that in the past lets me know that I couldn't do that going forward. And then when I started to express who I truly was, it's addicting, it's infuriating, and it fires me up in such a way that I could do it forever, right? Because it's just who I am. This is just fun for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just as we were talking before about Tom Brady, like he is obsessed, and people think it's like you are too into what you're doing, but he's just like, I love this so much. I breathe it. I wake up, I eat, I sleep, I breathe football, go to bed, repeat.
He wouldn't have it any other way. And it looks like such hard work that he's putting in the grind every day, but he knows like there's nothing else I'd rather be doing. And that's how I feel about the podcast. People are like, how do you do 3 episodes a week? How do you have all these conversations? How are you tweeting all the time? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm not doing anything. I'm just being me. And people are kind of saying to themselves like, oh, okay, that looks like a lot of work, and it probably is a lot of work. But to me, I'm just saying, this is me, man. I'm putting myself out there. I'm having these incredible conversations with people like you. So it's like, what else would I rather be doing? This is life, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And the sign behind you, for those just listening on audio, you have one life, which I love. That's iconic. I have an iconic poster too with the astronaut with a bunch of planets, because I do want to go to the moon one day, but I'm a big dreamer, as this is Dream Big Daily. It is Dream Big and Co. But to the point you said before, I love that it was like, it's not doing, it's being. And for you, you're someone who very much is like a beer, you can call it. Like you're very much into honing self into the best way possible. Your site is all about that. Your mission is all about that. I look through the values of DannyMiranda.com, and even at you getting to meditation and doing these challenges, it's like, how can I evolve being through this? And I know there's not one question on it, but like, a good question can be, what is your one word for life right now? Because I heard
Love.
Jack Butcher love.
Yeah. What was Jack
Love that.
Butcher's?
I heard Jack Butcher say acceptance, and I was like, this is such a beautiful question to ask, but it's so true. But love, that's it.
It encompasses everything that I want to express to anyone. I want to love myself first so that I could give that love to someone else. And what I mean by love is like pursuing the highest version of myself. Loving yourself doesn't mean sitting on the couch eating Cheetos. Loving yourself means doing the hard things daily that need to be done so that you can get to where you want to be and so that you can be in this moment fully present and be who you are. So that's what love means to me. And that's why it's my one word for last year. It's my one word for this year. And if I can, and I forget it at times, but if I can just hone in and whenever I get slightly off course, just hone back into that word love. Am I loving myself in this moment by what I'm doing? If I can answer the question, yes, then I'm on my way to a good life.
I love that, dude. If I see synergies, I'm one to call it out. And there's very few people that like speak the same thing of my philosophy of like improve yourself to improve others to improve the world. And it's what life is all about. And it's just so nice seeing someone, living it, manifesting it, actualizing it into their, I don't even want to say brand, just like what they're doing. And it's just so beautiful to see. And someone for you, you said love was like doing the hard things as well. You were in a time where you had to go through a hard phase last year. And I would love to know how you loved yourself through that entire process.
Yeah. So it started off with me reading 2 different books. One was Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins, which I highly recommend. And what I got from that book was just a purpose. It was like a sign that I could achieve, that I could be more than I currently was at that moment in time. The other book that really changed me was Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It by Kamal Ravikant. And such a trip because as we're recording this episode, tomorrow I'll be releasing the episode I did with him on my podcast. So Going from having a book to change your life to speaking to the author in 10 months is trippy and mind-blowing, and I'm so grateful for. That book taught me just the important premise of I love myself every single day. In drilling that into my head, I was just on a walk, and as I was on the walk, I was thinking to myself, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself, over and over and over, just greasing that groove in my head and repeating the truth, because we're thinking things at all times. So my philosophy is, why aren't those things that we're thinking helping us and going in the right direction? So I'm always looking for ways to brainwash myself. That book in particular was one of the first times where I really understood the power of brainwashing myself. By a month later, after I started, my life was transformed. 3 months, I was a completely different person and life was flowing in an incredible way. And for the most part, I haven't stopped that practice of loving myself.
Yeah. Yeah. When it rains, it pours. And it seems like once you need a bad to have a good. And it seems like once you traverse certain obstacles, and you'll have some to come, like you're in this place of such fluidity. And it's just it's such a nice thing to observe, because it's like the point we started with, like, you're not really forcing anything. It's like stuff's coming to you.
I don't feel like I'm doing anything, my man. That's the crazy thing. People are like I was saying, people are saying like, I'm doing so much work. I'm going crazy. I'm doing everything. But the truth is I'm doing nothing. I'm just watching what's going on in my life. And I'm like, how is this happening? Who's doing this? I am able to witness everything that's going on, and I'm blown away, but I don't feel like I'm doing anything at all.
Yeah. And then I read upon, because I would love to go deeper into the story, because I know something you did say that I do want to pull up is how you either keep that inner child or you die. And it was on a podcast you did, but I believe that so much that looking back into things we were good or bad at and how that influences us going forward is a very much underrated practice. It's kind of like a psychotherapeutic dissection of oneself, but for you really, 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 really leveraged hindsight. So I'd love to know like how you did that, and then really getting into your roots with it, because it really is full circle.
So for the inner child aspect of it, I was sitting here in quarantine, and quarantine was just starting. And before quarantine in March of 2020, I was planning on being a personal trainer, and I was planning on working at a gym, interning at a gym here in New York. And obviously that can't happen anymore. There are no gyms. Gyms are shut down. I didn't know what was going to happen. But at that time, I thought to myself, okay, what was I doing as a child? That was really the first time I asked myself that question. And that answer was writing. And I was writing as a kid. From the time I was 7, 8 years old to writing on my little league baseball teams, like when I was 11, and like tracking everybody's stats and putting it on a website. And everyone was like, what's going on? Like, how do you even create a website? This is probably back in 2008, 2007. Yeah. I was creating blogs back then. And I eventually created a Knicks blog, like writing about the Knicks, the New York Knicks, where I got to meet Amari Stoudemire and go to media day. And that's a whole nother story. But
yeah, Knicks Vision.
Yeah, Knicks Vision, exactly. So basically, I was sitting in quarantine thinking, what did I do as a child? And the answer was so clear. It was right. And so I said, okay, if that's what I was doing as a child, let me just reconnect with that. Let me do 2 posts a week for a year and see what happens. And as we stand today in February of 2021, it's like almost been a full year. And although the 2 posts per week didn't pan out, I didn't exactly follow that schedule, it led to the podcast, it led to writing, and I'm still doing it to this day. And connecting with that child, connecting with who I was, gives me such life, and is something I'm so grateful to have realized, because that's how you find those infinite games, those games that you can play forever, that have no end, that you are just playing for the sake of playing. That is what I found from writing, and I hope more people find their inner child and what they can really play forever.
Yeah, and in knowing about that, I think it was cool too when you started your what is the Sun Times, the newspaper when you're younger. Your grandma helped you, the Sunny Times. Yeah, dude, that's incredible. Because I know you wanted to take down New York Times, and it's so funny too. Because like you're such an upbeat, positive dude. Like the Sunny Times is so fitting.
I know. Yeah, it's hilarious. When I realized and stumbled upon that, I was like, that's hilarious. That is really full circle. I never thought about it from that perspective.
Dude, you know what's crazy too? Like a little thing to open up about is in Clubhouse, I've been toying around with my bio just because I want to make it most true to myself, but I revise it because I'm understanding myself more and more. But one thing I recently put in there that I don't have on any other platforms is that my friend and I made a comic book where he did the illustrations and I wrote, and we tried to sell it to my school principal in like 4th grade. To be at the school stand. You know, we got denied, but I still have the book in a storage unit. But when I think about your story, it's like it's such a good tool to leverage hindsight, because I'm so about that. Because I've been a mediator with people. I've been a writer in some senses with the comic book. And what I was going to ask you is like, how did writing and how did you do it with writing to understand your story more? Because I think it's like the tool to allow your inner floodgates to open and not many leverage it. And I know you journal every day. You did the 30 for 30 ship with writing in January of this year. Like how influential and why, and how do you do it? Because it's been a huge thing for me in my life.
Writing is clear thinking. And I didn't realize that until March or April or May, when I realized that as I was writing every day, I was actually getting smarter, and I wasn't really getting smarter, but I was understanding my own thinking and understanding what I really thought. And I think it's such an important practice, because if you can just type something out and then see your own thoughts, you often realize you don't know what the hell you're talking about. That's what I realized, at least. I was like, wow, I really don't know what's going on in my own brain. And if I don't even know what's going on in my own brain, then how am I going to tell anyone or say anything to anyone? So when I revise a piece of writing, it's almost like I'm revising my thinking and updating my thinking. And it's like almost a way to upgrade your iOS on your phone. You're creating a new operating system. The same is happening when you're rewriting a piece of your own writing. So that's the biggest thing, clear thinking writing has given me. What about you?
Yeah, I love that. I would say just the ability to not judge myself as much, because when I don't write, I notice how flustered things may be. But when I do write, it's like, it's just a tranquil experience. Like I don't need, it's whatever people want to do, but I don't really need any psychedelic drugs. I don't need drugs in general. Like my off is just writing or just like meditation and just, dude, I resonate with your yoga too, because I've been doing it and I think for like a couple of years now, but man, like after my first ever practice, I slept better than ever.
Yoga's real, man. Yoga is so real. And the point about writing as a way to think clearly and a way to be present, writing is meditation, right? And when you are just flowing with the page, you are forgetting everything and you are just putting what's in your head onto the page. It allows you to be present in a way that you're not normally present in everyday life. And I definitely find it as meditation. On the topic of yoga, dude, I love it. It's a game changer. And I think that more men need to be doing yoga because at least where I was from and raised, it was like not a thing that guys did normally. And I think that's kind of starting to change. But I noticed in San Diego, it was much more a culture of just openness and like freeness and do whatever you want and let your body feel good. And that's the number one priority as opposed to like fake masculinity or something like that. But I think yoga is such a game changer. Yoga, you do it. Don't knock it till you've tried it. If you've tried it, and I'm sure you love it because that's how our body was meant to be in some sense. Our body was meant to just relax in that way.
Yeah, exactly. And you were in San Diego for a portion of your life. Can you talk on that?
Yeah, for sure. So I moved out to San Diego in June of 2019, I believe. And I lived there with a few buddies from college, and it was a great experience. And it opened me up to just the way in which I was missing part of life. Like I grew up in New York, lived in New York all my life. And just the first time I got there, I remember just going to the grocery store and them charging me for a plastic bag, right? Because they have the tax. And I was like, that's so messed up. I can't believe they would charge me 10 cents for this plastic bag. And then by the third month that I was living there, I was like, wow, it's good that they charged me a plastic bag. You know, like I should have remembered. So I noticed the way in which it changed my mindset. And that was one little thing. But if you live in a different place, it really opens you up that the world that you were raised in isn't the way the world works. It's just your one particular worldview. And I also loved the fact that it was a laid back culture. And I come from New York, which is a hustle culture, get it, go faster, go faster. San Diego's a much more take things at the pace that they were meant to be taken and just go slower and relax and look at that sunset. It's beautiful. So I think the key for me personally, and everyone has got to find their own, but the key for me is combining that sense of hustle with that laid back energy. So if I could do that, then I'm living good.
Yeah. And in many things I've listened to you talk on before in other recordings or interviews, etc., discussions, you talk a lot about that balance and like moderation of things. So it's really nice that you're able to see like geographically both worlds, but then like within yourself, both worlds. Cause I think if you talk about travel too, like that's external movement, but I think there's a lot of internal journey that you take when moving and seeing different perspectives.
100%. You are able to really, whenever you go to a new environment, you are then changed by that in some way. And everyone knows this. You go to a new country or a new state, you're like, wow, that's different. And something inside of you shifts because you don't look at the world in exactly the same way. You're coming into the next situation in life with a new perspective. And so that's why when quarantine is over, when, traveling is normal, when whatever, I can't wait to get back to exploring this world because it's so beautiful.
Yeah, I know it was something you're big on too, as you could say from like a real writer's perspective, is you're a big cabin in the woods guy. And I know at one point it influenced a lot of what you did with writing. It would just be cool to like know about that story. Cause I think one, it can help people understand how important writing is and getting away, but also the importance of your 5 days of doing that. Cause it was really a catalyst in some ways for where you're at now.
Totally. So I had this idea when I was in quarantine in probably April, May. I was like, I could really use some time alone. And I went out and got a cabin, an Airbnb in the middle of nowhere, actually on the border of Pennsylvania and New Jersey, I believe, and on the Delaware
Nice.
River. And it was so serene and beautiful. And I turned off all the screens. I brought books and journals, old journals, and I lived closer to how we lived back in the, I don't know, 17th century, 60s, way before all this technology. And I lived like that for 5 days. And it was eye-opening because the first couple of days were really tough, man. Like, it was tough to, when you wake up, you expect notifications now, you expect the screen, you expect some dopamine just naturally. It's hard to get around that. And I noticed that the first 2 days that I was there. And then the third day, I could see my life for what it was. I could see the perspectives and all the things that I was doing wrong and the ways that I was slacking and the way what I could do better and what I'd done great up to that point. And it was there that I solidified the idea that I was going to start the podcast, and I was going to I remember listing out 100 names of different people to interview. And some of them were like people that I had no way of contacting. And some of them I've interviewed. And so it's so crazy to see, like, looking back at those 100 names and saying to myself, wow, like, that is how this podcast really came to be. That's when I solidified the process. That's when I just knew that that's what I was going to do. And yeah, it was a transformative experience.
Yeah, that's incredible. One of the things, I put a piece of content out last year saying it, but accomplishment is always won in the beginning, is something I always said to myself, because it's all about the intention. And if you have a strong intention, something that you believe in, it could be easier to accomplish it, or it'll just come into fruition however it wants. And I know recently you released an episode with the website you use for your domain for DannyMiranda.com. You interviewed the CEO of it. What was the company name again?
Copyblogger.
Yeah. And then I know, obviously, with Gary Vee's poster behind you, you brought on Gary Vee, you brought on all these amazing individuals. And that's just you slowly checking off the boxes of something you set an intention on. Because even for you, too, you said, I want to have 1 million YouTube subscribers. I saw the plaque you posted. Like, I was like, make it happen. And you were like, it already is. And I was just like, let's go. Like, that's when I knew, like, your mindset's different, because that's what it means to live belief.
Absolutely. And it's like, the thing is, I got this from Conor McGregor, where in 2013, I believe, he's like talking about how everybody always wants things in the future. And people are always putting off their goals and putting off their ambitions and putting off their intentions. Like, oh, one day I will do this. One day I will do that. But it's like, it's already done. If you have the mindset and the belief that what you are setting out, the intention that you have, it's already done and you've already put in the work, time just hasn't caught up yet. That's how I feel about everything I'm doing. That's how I know in my bones that it will work out. Like, I just have that assuredness in the self. And yeah, am I crazy? Maybe, but will time tell? We'll see, you know?
Yeah, you got to be a little crazy in your pursuit. That's how it is. The great ones are a little crazy. And something I really wanted to ask you too is, like, this thing of letting other people's perspectives come in to influence you, but making sure it doesn't influence you too much so that you go down this crazy path that you were subconsciously not aware of. So, like, in a refined way of questioning it is, like, how do you stay assured with what you're doing and your values, but still make room for bringing in new ideas, because changing your mind is important?
It's a great question. I think it comes down to being open, right? And keeping that aspect of open, that assuredness of self. I'm going to have 1 million subscribers on YouTube, while also being open and listening to the world and listening to the way in which the signs the universe is telling me. Because otherwise, if you're like closed off, let's say, okay, here's like a perfect example of this, right? Like, let's say I am just saying I'm going to have 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and that's my intention, but I'm not listening to the signs that the universe is giving me and the ways in which it is influencing me. And so I just want to be open to the world and open to the possibilities and understand that it's really just all about being sure of yourself and also letting everything come to you as it comes.
Yeah, it's like Tony Robbins quote that I actually, when I first started my journey with podcasting and with Dream Big and Co, it was like, be committed in your decision, but be agile in your approach, right? It's like the sailor on the sail ship of like, you set your direction to where you want to go. You set your flag how it should go so you can go in that direction. But the storm might pull you in every other way and you might end up somewhere else. But the internal fulfilling part of that still might be the same. It's just the physical location might not actually be the same.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, like, I was just reading this book, Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he talks about his son setting some intention to get a new job, to get a higher paying job or something. And what happens at first is he gets fired from the job. And he's like, Dad, this isn't working. Like, I just got fired. And then it leads to, like, 2 weeks later, him going to a surf shop and someone saying, hey, do you want this job? And it's a better job. So it's like the first thing that happens might be something bad, but you have to listen and you have to keep that intention. You have to just be open to what's possible, because the first thing in the equation when you start listening to yourself and listening to the world is like, could be a bad thing. But if it leads to an outcome that you want, or even a better outcome, it's like, then you'd be grateful for that initial bad thing for happening. So
yeah. Like with you, you had to take a step back to be going forward. And for me, like, just as you did in 2020, it humbled me like no other year, as did it with other people, hopefully. But I reprogrammed my mind in so many ways. I unschooled myself because I decided to take a leave from school to go all in on what I'm doing. And it's just like, it's that framing of how you look at things. That's why perception, my friend, he's like, we were talking about our words for 2021. And I know yours is love and his was perception. And I was like, I like that. I mean, it's very true. It's all about how you frame things.
What's yours?
Mine's persistence.
Nice.
Mine's persistence because, and I would say somewhat patience. I would say persistence though, because I'm like a surfer waiting for the correct wave to come, but positioning myself, preparing myself for when it does, and just wading through all of the crap that has to be waded through in order to be to where I want to. It's just this thing of being right there, but being so far away, but making sure you enjoy every part of that. And just as you always talk about, just like cherishing each part of the process. And it's something you can't really talk about. You just really have to live it.
I often think back into the first few days I was setting up my website and the first few months, and no one's paying attention. No one knows who I am. No one cares. And no one's asking me to be on podcasts like this, right? But I'm thinking to myself, these are the good old days that I believe in myself and I know what's going to happen. And I have to paddle through all this shit, like I have to just keep going because I can see it, but other people can't see it right now. And I'm going to keep doing it and enjoy this moment, because this is the moment where I knew that I had changed myself, but no one else knew. And it takes the world a while to figure it out, right? It takes the world a while for them to realize that you are who you are. And the world has no idea who I am, and the world might not know who I am for another 10 years, and that doesn't matter. But what matters is that my internal knows who I am. My internal knows I'm full of love and expanded and just trying to become the greatest version of myself every day. The internal knows that, and it won't change. It will keep going, and it'll keep going in that direction. But it's like, if I can just love today for what it is, then I've won. So that's how I think about it.
Dude, that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. If people haven't gone back to listen to that is something I will be using time and time again, because you couldn't have said it better. It's like, why are you seeking all this external validation when you've already reached it internally? Like, why are you waiting for others to check your own box? Like, you have already checked it.
Yes.
Like, what else are you seeking? And I think that non-judgment is so crucial. It's something I've learned in meditation, something I've learned in yoga, it's something I've learned in writing. It's something you talk about with having your podcast cover Be the Mountain. It's like, it's there, but you appreciate that it is. Yeah, man, that's everything. You literally couldn't have said it better.
Thank you, man. I mean, like I said, I'm just watching myself. I'm not saying this. It's coming through me. You know what I'm saying? Like it's that where it's not even me who's operating. Like when I'm talking to you, when I'm lost in this shit, it's not like I could even be thinking or smart enough to say some of this shit. Like it just is coming through me. And that's how I truly feel when I'm on a walk and I get downloads from the universe of like, you're on the right track. Keep going, keep pushing. When I get, signs that I'm on the path, like having this amazing conversation is like, that's what it's all about. So,
what are some of those signs that usually that come to you, or like maybe on your walk today, like what are some of those downloads from the universe that you recognize?
Yeah, the first thing is like being open to it and realizing and having no expectation that you're going to get some download from the universe, because it sounds like pretty cool, and it definitely is a cool moment whenever it happens to me, but I don't ever expect it. And I think I've gone wrong in my life when I've expected things like, oh, I'm going to write this blog for 3 months and then X will happen or Y will happen, or oh, I'm going to start this podcast and then I'm going to have X or Y. No, it doesn't work like that. Internal goals start with internal, right? Like, I'm just going to go on a walk and see what happens. That's the internal for me. So, but something that like sticks out to me is just when I feel love and kindness and compassion went for no reason. And that tells me like there's nothing better. And if I can give that to someone, and also like if I'm walking and I see a dog just like come up to me and just like start approaching me and wanting to interact with me, I take that as a sign that like something's looking after me. So I don't know. I have all these crazy theories.
It's true. It's true too, because everything that is attracted to you is exactly how you are feeling internally at the moment. Like if you have someone beep at you or honk at you or yell at you at a red light, then that you have to take that as a signal as to what is going on? Why am I receiving this? What is its message? And I think Tony Robbins is someone I know we both appreciate. He always talks about like, it's not a negative emotion. It's an emotional sign or emotional message. Like what is the universe trying to tell you? And I think you hit it spot on. And one thing I was going to have queued actually, that it's so beautiful that it comes about now, and in a way of segueing to it, is how do you set the goal but make sure you leave room for spontaneity or serendipity and stuff like that? Because it seems as though it's just don't attach to the outcome, but the outcome is the thing you're trying to strive for. So what's your kind of system goal setting framework, if there is any, for Danny Miranda?
Yeah, so I think it comes down to setting the internal goal. And so for me, like, whenever I set internal goals and follow through with them, good things happen. And I've seen this time and time again for not just me, but other people as well. So it's like 100 podcasts. Okay, I'm going to put out 100 podcasts. And that's the internal goal. I can control that. No one else can tell me I can't do that. Like, I have direct control over this. Okay, now it's like, let's do it. And it's like, I don't know. How do you create serendipity? How do you create luck? You just keep going with the plan, and you keep at it. You said you were going to do this, so keep doing it. And I mean, and also like documenting and telling other people your journey creates serendipity in some way, right? Like, hey, my top 5 dream guests are these people. Well, if I don't tweet that, then Gary Vaynerchuk doesn't come on the podcast. So it's like keeping other people informed of what you're doing as you're doing it, with no expectation for anyone to share what you have, but like just saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what's cool. This is what I'm enjoying. This is what I want to happen. This is my, dream guest. This is my future that I see for myself that I would love to happen. So yeah, that's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah. It's Matt Diavella has his dream guest of being The Rock. And
Yeah.
even though The Rock makes very few appearances, it's like such a big aspiration, and it's one that can come about because Matt's just so set on making himself the best person possible. He's just so good at what he does. Second documentary out from Netflix about minimalism, like it's just unbelievable. And that stuff comes about. And I think that's what some people needed to hear, calling to ask that question, because it's not this like one size fits all answer. It's just like go with what works best for you, trust in the process, let go of any attachment, because accomplishment is one in the beginning and then great things will come about. And I know one thing you are especially challenging yourself on is 2021 50 pull-up challenge, and like that's something
Yes,
you
sir.
can control. Like that's increasing discipline. And I believe you're at 15 right now, right? That you can do consecutively.
17. So
17.
I was at 17 a couple weeks ago, and I actually broke my pull-up bar. And
Getting
it's
too good.
not really. I'm not getting too good. It was one-sided. Like
Yeah.
one side was more than the other. Like it was slanted because my right side is stronger than my left. So I ordered a new pull-up bar. Just came yesterday. Setting it up today. So excited. So yeah,
Nice.
back on it.
That's good. You can even out the strengths on both sides now. That's
Exactly.
incredible. Yeah, that's Army-esque stuff right there. It's like getting yourself to do the hard things is a major theme I'm taking away, and hopefully others will in this discussion. And something I would love to know for you, because it seems as though you're cherishing the process, but I do admire and want to know what people's aspirations are to see how I can help, see how others can help, etc. Like, what is the future version? Like, who do you want to become? Like, what is a Danny Miranda in a decade that you can say, this individual is someone I would really like to become, instead of like things I want to accomplish? Because Tom Bilyeu always says, someone I really admire as well, it's like, it's not the championship, but rather the championship level performer that you can become. So for you, who is that?
To take what I'm currently doing, I want to be talking to the people who are at the top of their field, the people who have created the most amount of success, the people who are so full and so happy with their lives, the people who have achieved great things, but also have that fullness in their heart. And that's like from a professional. From a personal standpoint, I'd love to have a beautiful family, beautiful in the sense of just loving themselves, willing to do the hard things, willing to just give and show love in every moment to the best of their abilities. That's kind of how I see my life developing from a personal and professional standpoint.
I love that. I love that for you. Oftentimes when I ask the question, many have their answers, but I can sense at times when it might be untrue to them. And that just seems like it's such a you answer. And I love that so much. And it's slowly happening, and it is happening. It's actualizing slowly. But if there's one question you wish I could have asked you now, because I know you a little bit better, what is something you would love to bring to the table, if you could?
That you would ask me, or I should ask you?
That I would ask you. What is something you wish I would ask you, or something you wish someone can know about you?
I want to know the true person. And I want, in every interaction, I want people to feel open with me in every way. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, and what is like in that way of being the most true and open and raw version? Like, what is something top of mind that you can just speak on, like a realization you've had lately, or something that's just a constant theme just going around in your head, like something you can't stop tweeting about, just like giving you the stage to talk on that, because you want people, to your point of the question you want me to ask you, is like just you being true, and I want to give you the stage to be true. So what is that thing you would just let it fly?
Yeah, I would just say that gratitude's the most important thing, man. Like gratitude in every moment, for every little thing, for the fact that we're having this conversation, for the fact that we can do this. Like, you know, for two people to talk on a phone call, on a computer, on Wi-Fi, like this stuff blows my mind, like truly. And I think that a sense of wonder and a sense of appreciation and a sense of gratitude is something that we need to cultivate more in our society. So yeah, that's what I got to speak on. That's what's been on my mind lately.
I love that. Always is. And I think to your own journey too, and something I love talking about with people is when they reach a point that they once dreamed of having and they're ungrateful for it, you got to think about like how your younger self always imagined having that. And then you just sitting in that and marinating in the beauty of getting to the spot you always dreamed of. I think Billie Eilish talked about it once before in her interview on Jimmy Fallon, and I'd love to clip it here in the description. I'll put the link, but like she says it so well. And I think you live that every day. So from me to you, man, like podcaster to podcaster, host to host, person to person, human to human, like you are just like, love, man. Just so much gratitude for you and what you're doing, and I'm so excited to see everything that happens going forward.
Thank you, man. I'm excited to see it too because I don't know what the hell is going to happen. Like I said, I'm just like watching this journey unfold, and I appreciate the kind words, and I can't wait to experience it myself.
Absolutely, brother.